Hello and welcome to our webinar today, Choosing the Right Curriculum and the Future of International Schools. And I'm delighted to have here with me today Tony Piper, Vice Principal and Head of Senior School, Jerudong International School, Brunei, Mireille Rabaté, Head of School, Lycée International de Londres, Winston, Churchill, and Kili, Director of Curriculum, American School of the Hague. So just to give people a bit of context of what your background is and your curriculums, could you just introduce yourselves and perhaps mention where you've taught around the world? And then I'll ask you to give a quick overview of the school. So Tony, could we start with you, please? Just give us an overview of where you have taught in the past.
Okay, so my name's Tony Piper and I've been in Brunei actually at Jerudong International School for the last 14 years. Before that, I was working in the UK, and the dim and distant past, I worked for a couple of years as an English teacher in Japan.
Brilliant, thank you. Mireille?
Hello everyone, I am the head of Lycée International de Londres, Winston, Churchill. It's located in North London, and it's a school that runs two curriculums, so we can say that a little bit later, but I've been head of school for longer than I care to say. I've taught in the US, in Norway, in France, of course, and then back in the US and now in England.
And Kili, please tell us about, you've got some very exotic plants behind you as well. Just have to give us a clue to what country you're in.
Well, yes, I'm Kili in the Netherlands right now, and it is a place that has amazing flowers and plants, maybe not as exotic as Brunei. I've been in the Netherlands for nearly 10 years in the role of Director of Curriculum and Staff Development. And prior to the Netherlands, I worked at an international school in Spain, also ran an American curriculum. And before that, I was in Connecticut in the United States, working at a private independent school there.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So perhaps we can start with a short overview of your schools in a sentence or two to set the scene for our audience. If you can indicate the size of the school, age of pupils, and an idea of the nationalities and curriculums that are taught. Shall we start again with you, Kili?
Sure. So we have students ranging from 3 years old all the way up until they finish high school at around 18. We run an American curriculum. In our high school, we also have the International Diploma, the IB Diploma Program for our 11th and 12th graders, as well as American AP, the Advanced Placement courses. So we do have both of those in our high school program. Were those the relevant bits?
And do you cover the IB as well?
Only in our high school, only for the diploma program years, 11th and 12th grade. For our middle years and primary years, which we refer to as elementary school and middle school, we run our own American curriculum.
Thank you. Tony?
So in Jerudong International School, we have about 1,600 students from about age 2 to 18. About 45% are Bruneian, and then 55% are from about 50 nationalities from around the world. Our junior school is based on the early years foundation stage and the curriculum for England, with sort of contextual tweaks, if you like, that for the relevance to our international and Brunei setting. And then in the senior school, our year 7 to 9 is based loosely on the British national curriculum, and then year 10 and 11 IGCSE. And for year 12 and 13, we have a 2-pathway A-level and the IB diploma program.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And Mireille?
Yes, so we are a co-ed school from 3 years old to 18, 19, well, all the way to year 13 in the UK. In our school, everybody studies bilingually and how to become a fully bilingual thinker, speaker, writer. So we start with the early years, which is based on the British curriculum but intertwined with the French. That's what we do all the way through EYFS and primary, so the elementary school. And then starting in year 7, so starting in secondary, students may choose between the international track called English International Program. In parallel, we also run the French National Baccalaureate Français Bilingue. And those two programs really fit very well together. They're very similar in the way students are expected to think and to think critically, to write, not to just check boxes. We run the IGCSE in year 11 for all of our international program students and for some of the French program students as well.
We'll now go over to you in your personal reasons why you think your curriculums do such a great job of preparing young people for the future. And Tony, I'll start with you because you've had slightly longer to think about it than our other two guests. But I know that you're absolutely passionate about the school and about the curriculum. So give us an idea of really why you're so keen on the curriculums and also indeed your subject areas.
I think it's really important to make sure that the curriculum has breadth and choice. I think we're sort of kids are entering now a world that isn't quite as stable as it potentially once was, and I think parents used to probably do one job and then they would continue to do that job for the rest of their career, and now lots of people will change their jobs, and I think I feel that we try and make sure that students are doing a number of different subjects and in different areas and having lots of different pathways that they can experience, so that actually they can start to relate things to the outside world, the things that we're preparing them for the same goal, to leave school, and we want them to make sure that they can link what they're learning with real life events from around the world, and for me that's the big thing that runs all the way through the school up even until the sixth form, where we've got a dual pathway of A levels or the IB that hopefully allows each individual student to sort of choose the right pathway for them. And I think on top of that, it's the curriculum hopefully is supportive enough to allow them to fail in a supportive way. So actually the character strengths, that bounce back ability, if you like, are also embedded within the curriculum, so that when they leave the obviously lovely places of all of your schools, life's going to be okay as well when it doesn't go quite right. And I think the curriculum we have allows for that as well.
And of course, the transferability, that's very important to this particular audience or parents. So the British curriculum, or confusingly English curriculum, around the world, that is still to be found in many countries should families move on. Is that what you're still finding?
Yeah, A levels and the IB diploma program are accepted the world over, and almost the gold standard, if you like, of sixth form study. That means that if a student is moving different countries or going to any university in the world, that those qualifications are going to be accepted.
Mm-hmm. And can you just briefly explain, because I know parents find this confusing, the difference between the GCSE and the IGCSE, but just why international schools have the IGCSE?
I think, in some ways, I think the IGCSEs allow a little bit more flexibility in some respects, and some would say sometimes they're more rigorous in certain regards. However, to be honest with you, whether it's a GCSE or IGCSE, they're pretty similar, actually. And if you're a parent, if you see it, they're all going to be, certified by, the right sort of people to say this is a great qualification.
So moving as a young teenager from a school with GCSEs to a school offering IGCSEs is not going to be a huge problem.
No, not at all.
Great, good, thank you. Now, Kili, the American system equally can cause confusion, but perhaps you can just give us a brief overview as to why and how transferable that is today and how it fits in your school with the IB and the choice of how you guide people to choose what's the most appropriate diploma for them.
Yes, sure. So I think you've really hit on some of the key things, right? It's transferability. And we know that for our families as well, that's a really important factor when they're making a choice of where to go. An American curriculum is, kind of a tricky thing to explain because we don't have a national curriculum. We have some national standards that guide us in literacy and numeracy, so mathematics. And those are used in international schools, American international schools around the world as well, and here at American School of the Hague. I think that it hits on developing explicit instruction around literacy, around research skills, around mathematical development, science, social studies. These are the foundations that American schools will emphasize. Something else that's pretty unique to American schools is the concept of middle school, that at ASH, American School of the Hague, begins when a student enters 5th grade. So these are 10, 11-year-old students. For us, what that means is they start moving around subject by subject to different teachers. And it's where they first have a chance to exercise choice in a language, an additional language they want to study. At our school, they'll study Dutch up until they're in 4th grade, and then they have a choice. Will they study French? Will they study Spanish? Will they continue with Dutch, either as an additional language or in our native stream as being our host country? And in middle school, students have a chance to explore different electives like design technology, art, home economics, and they'll go through different experiences to help them develop these skills of budding problem solvers and get what they can help them as they move into the high school to make maybe some bigger decisions about areas of emphasis and what they want to focus on. So when they move into high school, we also start talking with the students and their families about what types of choices are going to be available to them when they move into 11th grade. That's typically when we see our students taking on the most advanced placement, AP courses, which are also options around the world. They're not only helpful to enter university or college in the United States, but countries around the world also accept advanced placement scores as part of their entrance criteria. So it takes a lot of kind of conversation with families to know what's their likely destination, what are their hopes together for their child, for the student, talking to the student, what are they hoping for achieving. AP could offer some flexibility because they're modular. You can take an AP course in a single subject, or you could take them across multiple areas and put them together in a sort of package option as well. But we also talk with our students about the diploma program, part of the IB World offerings. And we have a large number of our students opting to go this route as well, just because of the transferability. It will allow them access all over the world. And that's what we see. We see our students entering colleges and universities around the world, although most of our students will attend schools in the Netherlands, is our top destination, as well as the United States and UK. Those are the top 3 places. We have, I didn't mention this, but we have about over 70 different nationalities attending our school. And we have around 1,300 students from the beginning going on through.
Thank you very much. Now, Mireille, the French system seems to have been getting a lot of airing, and the French language and the importance of that, and just how transferable that is over the last year or so. So perhaps you can enlighten us as to why parents are so keen to use the French system.
The kind of setting we have is very similar to what Kili just described, except that in place of the American curriculum, we have the French. But running the 2 curriculum side by side I believe is going to be what most parents are going to find in international schools around the world. If you go to a school in South America, for instance, they might very likely run a local Spanish curriculum alongside the IB, for instance. So the IB is highly transferable, as Kili said, and that's why most international schools are going to have that on, either just by itself or on the side. And for us, because there is a big French community in London, we decided not to run the British curriculum because it's not our specialty. Our specialty is international and French. So the French curriculum, just like the IB, is taught all over the world. There are over 530 schools running the French curriculum in the network of AEFE schools. And so this is highly transferable because I don't know of a big city in any country in the world that doesn't have at least one school running the French curriculum.
Thank you very much. So I think that leads us on nicely to the importance of cross-cultural awareness, language teaching and support of native languages in schools. Tony, can you describe how you support young people at different ages?
I suppose first and foremost, the most important language that sort of we look after here at Jerudong is Malay, and the importance of Malay for particularly our Bruneian students. Malay is obviously a language that that the students do all the way from junior school up until they do O level actually here, and that's done with the Bruneian government. But the importance of that qualification in them then going on to get a job in a government agency is critical, and they have to get a certain grade in order to do that. And obviously the challenges that the Malay exam is very much a sort of if you like sort of BBC Malay, and Bruneian Malay is slightly different. So we have students who are being taught in English all of the time, going home speaking Bruneian Malay, and then doing an exam, a critically important exam in Malay, if you like. And so we try and make sure that for all our Bruneian students, it's a sort of central place with sort of extra lessons, if you like, extra option lessons throughout their time up to the sort of GCSE age, to support them, because that is a critical door for them to open as they move through. And then also from a cultural perspective, I feel it's also really important Brunei is a really small country and very internationally minded, and we're teaching in English all the time here, and one of the critical pillars of the sort of the Bruneian culture is the language, and I think that's why the government put a really important place on that. And then I suppose for us the other big sort of area is we have quite a number of full boarders from mainland China, and again they are coming to our school to learn English, but what their parents are very keen on is they don't forget their Chinese. And again, it's really important for them, if they go then pop back into China, into the education system there, for them to continue to make sure that their native language is really strong. And again, that's something that's grown in the last 3 or 4 years, to really make sure that obviously we're putting lots of attention for them to learn English, but on the other side of the coin, that they're not forgetting their sort of native language, which is obviously important for them, both from the family perspective, but also from potentially going back into China, into their education system.
Great. So Kili, you're fairly typical of a European international school, with having lots of different nationalities and lots of different languages. So perhaps also you can mention how culture is important, and cross-cultural awareness in the curriculums you teach as well, and how you support everyone to feel included in the school from early age right through.
You're right. We definitely take time to celebrate the identities of every member of our class and our community, and empathy is one of our school core values. And I think that really from the very beginning, when our students join as 3-year-olds, they start to learn what that means as we take time to share stories. We share stories in different languages. So we do allow for translanguaging, we call it, and support the classroom with teachers to help with that process. Now, we don't have teachers that speak every language of the 74 or so languages in our school, but we can frequently find partners within the school who do share the same home language, and we have EAL teachers to help our students acquire English as their language. That's our language of instruction. So I think that's one thing that we take time doing from the very beginning when our students start their educational journey with us. But then at any point that they join the American school, we're looking at what's their level of English. That's our language of instruction. And also looking to support them with the learning of another language. So from the very beginning, we start with our host country language. So Dutch in the Netherlands, they'll start speaking Dutch, the Dutch teacher. For some, this is their home language, and for others, it's learning a new language. But as they're so young, they're all learning together in one classroom without much difference, extending and enriching. As they grow, they have some choices, and I mentioned that in middle school, they could start to take on, the choice of another language. But here we also explore a little bit deeper into identities around language, but also nationality, race, gender, and we bring in these elements of inclusion. And that kind of carries and builds through into high school, into the older years.
Thank you very much. Now, Mireille, we've also covered with you in an earlier webinar, which is really fascinating, the comparison between the French system and also the qualification. So I'd urge people to check up on that. So can I go over to you, Mireille, to talk about our next subject, which is what subjects are students and parents particularly wanting their children to study and students want to study? And is this a result possibly of the pandemic?
Honestly, Fiona, I haven't seen a major change in the choice of those topics. Science has always been, they're very popular in our school. We run a specific additional class in the lower secondary section called Opening Minds classes. And it's all about doing the research, understanding the world around you. What we see is that there is a lot of interest in those things about subjects related to social sciences in general, I would say.
So, Tony, you're a geography specialist, and Brunei must be an absolutely fabulous place to discover your geography route and for young people to explore not only sciences but also environmental issues. So can you enlighten us about what's the sort of extra added value they get in being in such a unique geographical background?
Yeah, I suppose it is exciting, and it's wonderful to get the kids out into the rainforest and actually for some people to go, oh, we're just spending a week in Borneo and that's normal. And I think, but we're quite lucky where we are. We've got our own outdoor discovery centre on site. We've got quite a large site, and so a corner of the sort of school has been sort of left, if you like, to just be a real rainforest, and we use that as a sort of an outdoor classroom. So students from reception to year 13 use that for not just coursework or lessons, but it's a really great place where faculties can get together and try and put their know-how into real world problems. So we have a number of green businesses there, which might just be something as we've got something like stingless bees, for example, but we've had the science department and the geography department and then the art department all working together in this sort of outdoor classroom to give them the experiences, if you like, of success and failure within the school environment. And I think, for us, that's a massive win for living in where we do, to allow kids to get out into the jungle, if you like, but still within school, and be able to try and drag in lots of different ideas from lots of different subjects and put them into a real world context.
And are you finding that science subjects and biology and environmental are particularly where young people are wanting to go?
Yeah, I think it's always an interesting. I live in Brunei, and obviously Brunei, the oil is a very important part of the economy. And one of the massive things that the government is doing is looking at the transition from oil. And so, actually, yeah, absolutely right. The environmental sustainability aspect of that is a huge thing at the moment, and something that, although we're a international school in Asia, so maths and sciences are massively still very popular, and probably even more popular in times of uncertainty, because actually these subjects are still seen as these are the ways that people can get a job and a career. However, the environmental sustainability, particularly with regards to the deforestation of the rainforest and the use of our oceans and plastic, is a massively growing area, not just within the school but within the country as a whole. And we're quite lucky because we're a small country. The gap between sort of the government and the schools is quite narrow, so we're able to sort of access that real-time policy change, if you like.
And I imagine quite cutting edge. There's cutting edge things happening in all industry sectors at the moment, particularly across the energy sector. So if that captures young people's imagination, there are certainly plenty of jobs for the future. The Netherlands has a reputation for being particularly aware of environmental issues. Are you finding that your young people are particularly interested by climate change issues, environmental, or are they looking for financial sector jobs, or what direction are they heading in?
Yeah, sure. I would say that, yes, absolutely. We do have a large number of students across all ages, really, quite passionate about anything related to environmental impact. I hear my own kindergartner talking to us at home about choices we make around vegetarian versus meat products, how we're handling our waste, how we're recycling, the use of plastics in the school, out of the school. We have a number of student groups that are self-initiated, starting from 8-9 years old, running all the way up through high school. Definitely, we've had students participating in the climate protests, inspired by what's happening around. I'm not sure this week, we've got parent-teacher conferences on at this moment, so we're in a little bit of an interrupted schedule for some of our students, but they're very active in voicing their opinions and getting involved in different ways to make an impact. And I think that's what's really neat to see, is that it's not just about making a protest, but they're looking at the action and the impact side of it. I watched a 5th grade classroom working on an interdisciplinary project with the literacy, the language arts, the social studies, the science, where they were working on an environmental cause issue of their own passion and of their own interest. And then they needed to research that, present it to others. And they also had, they made a protest, and they had to have a sign to go with it. But it had to be legible, but it had to be, give the main message away. So we see lots of involvement from both the students and the teachers in our community, really passionate about these causes. We use the UN Sustainable Development Goals to help provide a framework for us as an education institution to find doorways into making an impact, and then finding connections into the community to have speakers come and talk with us, whether it's on Zoom or virtual these days, or actually in person when we're able to have people on our campus. I would say it's absolutely a matter of great importance. Financial sector, yeah, some, but I would say in where we're located, it's really science, technology, engineering, it's sustainability. These are the more the subject areas and the interest areas where we find the majority of our students taking interests.
Thank you. So Mireille, I'm sure you find your pupils are also excellent communicators. So what are you finding is getting the most enthused at the moment, and how do you capture that and help them to progress in a career after they leave you?
Yeah. There's definitely an interest in the environment, more than an interest. There is a sort of we can see that, I agree with Kili, from a very young age. So over the years, very quickly, a culture of student voice and leadership and initiative has taken, shape in our school and in our community, and they are. I mean, I'm very impressed with the way our students express themselves, express the need for a voice and for initiative. So it really pleases me and all of us very much to see them so active in the local community. They also are extremely keen to make sure that they interact with the whole school. We really foster an atmosphere of, again, students' initiative, student voice. The student government is very active, and pretty much everyone, they don't have to, we don't make it mandatory for anybody, but I can see that over the years, more and more student led clubs and activities and committees are taking place and making up the bulk of the student life. It's really fascinating
and very exciting.
Very exciting indeed.
Yes. So how do you see, Mireille, let's just get your thoughts on this while we're with you. How do you see the future of international schools evolving?
Well, I think that definitely the pandemic has changed the way we do everything, the way we live our lives in general. And definitely, too, I believe that there is a place for more of what we're doing right now, which is virtual interaction. But I do think that more virtual remote learning will take place or will continue. So our teachers are trained to not only deliver the lesson online, but to create and design lessons that are specifically designed to be delivered online. It's not exactly the same to do your usual lesson online or to create a lesson to be taught online. There's a little step there that makes a difference between students there but not there, or students really engaged with the teachers. The virtual world is probably here to stay.
Thank you. So Kili, do you agree with that? And how do you see international schools evolving, and does that excite you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it excites me, but I also agree with what Mireille said about the internet and hybrid learning and more virtual opportunities being here to stay. And I would just emphasize that I know that I think I've heard enough to know that you would agree. There's also providing for global competencies, right? I think that one thing parents and that we see as educators is increasingly important is explicitly teaching for this worldview and multiple perspectives, transferability, but also I think giving our students the opportunity to see the world as theirs and equipping them with explicitly taught skills that are going to help them solve the complex problems that we face. So I think that, things we've talked about already about language, about foundational skills, but also about futures literacy. And I think bringing into international schools this idea of how do you prepare for an uncertain future? And there are ways that we could do that. And I think these are some of the elements that international schools around the world, certainly here, we're talking about. We're looking at how do we bring some of those explicit elements into our program, into our curriculum, to make it more explicitly taught, to give our students a chance to be as successful as they can be.
Brilliant, thank you. So Tony, over to you then. How do you see this future of international schools evolving, particularly as you're in such an interesting part of the world and so many geographical areas that your students can access?
I mean, yeah, I think, you know, that holistic education that international schools offer is something that parents the world over are excited about. You know, that, you know, exams are really important and international schools get really good exam results, but it's everything else around there, the opportunities around there that we've talked about today, you know, linking in with the school, with the community, with the world is the real key driver for international schools. And I think international school children who transcend just national boundaries, that, you know, they think beyond the country. You know, we've seen at COP26 the last few years how difficult it is to make a deal with lots of different nations, and actually to have children who actually go beyond that and, you know, celebrate their own national culture, but then also think about the, you know, a continent or the globe. I think it's really important if we're going to solve these big issues like climate change. But I think as well with that, it's international students in international schools really consider those, you know, those small teaspoons of change as well. Actually, if you all work together on those little things, actually, you know, we're going to solve the big things. And that ability to look at scale from this, you know, your school to the global sustainable development goals, I think in all the conversation we've had today, it runs through all the schools. And I think for me, that's what makes international education continues to be so exciting.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm sure any pupils going to your schools can look forward to a very bright future, and parents around the world should feel really reassured if they're given the opportunity to go to an international school or to a different geographical region to take it and run with the opportunities. So thank you very much indeed for your passion and enthusiasm and the wealth of expertise that you've imparted to our audience of parents, the employer decision makers who hopefully will be recruiting your young people, and of course the relocation professionals who ensure that they know about your schools. So thank you very much indeed, and hopefully we can catch up with you again soon and hear about latest developments. Thank you very much. We have here the details of our speakers today. Tony Piper, Vice Principal, Head of Senior School, Jerudong International School of Brunei. Contact details for the school are here. We're also very pleased to invite Mireille Rabaté, Head of School of Lycée International de Londres, and details are there, and you can also catch up on a previous webinar with her. And Kili, and here are contact details for that school. Please get in touch with the schools. They're very welcoming and answer all your queries. So this is to remind you that this is part of the International and Education Schools Fair, brought to you by Relocate Global and Think Global People. We're a multimedia with a wealth of resources and digital materials available from our website. Webinars in this series can be found on our website and on YouTube. So please do take advantage to find out more information. Thank you for joining us.